Well, hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to the Unwatched Pile number 18, the show where we just take stuff off that pile that's just cluttering up your room because you buy so much physical media that you just annoy your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend. They're just like, get this shit out of here, and you're just like, I gotta watch it. So just give me a second or give me a year.
I know. Give me, or in my case, give me 10 years.
If it
Give me
wasn't
a dozen years.
I could watch these movies, but they don't understand.
They don't understand that if you don't see it, you don't remember to watch it sometimes. So you need the visual cues to remind you that you need to watch these movies at some point. You put your hard-earned money down to buy them, and you need to watch them.
Yeah, I mean, I work so many hours to buy this one Blu-ray because it's so expensive. Like my one day's worth of work is the cost of most 4K or Blu-rays these days. But enough of that. We are here on the Unwatched Pile. I'm Stephen Billings. Andrew Krupal there, the guy that runs Chasing Labels basically now. I'm just here, coming back from my audition for Charles Manson. As you can see, my beard's getting pretty long right now.
That's a heck of an audition to be going out for.
But
we rendezvous once a month here on the Unwatched Pile because it's fun and we like to talk about it and we like to talk about movies. And I don't know about anybody else, but my Unwatched Pile does get larger and larger as the weeks go by. But we do have a guest.
Evening, Jeff K. I wish I knew how to make this whole thing black and white.
I don't know how to do it either.
I don't either. I'm sure there's a way, but I don't.
Yeah, I can barely make it look visibly nice enough to stream, let alone messing around with the color palette.
No, we look pretty good. We look pretty good. Let's not lie. But yes, we're here for the Unwatched Pile number 18. And if you've never watched the show before, we go to our Unwatched Piles because we collect a lot of physical media, and there's some of that stuff we just buy because it looks interesting and we haven't watched it yet. We got to get around to it. We pull one of them off, we watch it, we come here to discuss it, our first impressions, and then we're like, let's pair it with something that we've seen, something that we feel good about, that will pair nicely with this first time watch. But as always, we do that with a guest. And we always like bringing this guy back. He's always got a lot to say because he's a cinephile. He's just living the life. He was just telling us he lives like 3 blocks away from Criterion. So I'm so jealous. Johnny Pomato is back. What's up, man?
Hey, thank you so much. Stephen, do you have a microphone in my apartment? Your whole scenario of some angry wife yelling at someone over a collecting pile of films. I don't know. It just sounds so familiar.
Yeah, well, it's a little exaggerated in my end, at least in the piles. I mean, that's more Andrew's thing. He like piles things around him. Like it's like he's creating this like cocoon.
It's like in Game of Thrones where they've got the throne of like
I look
swords
at
and stuff. Mine's just movies.
Well, but I also kind of look at, because I'm a Cronenberg guy, I kind of look at your situation more like body horror. Like eventually the movies are going to start fusing with your body.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then like a DVD is going to just come out of your mouth. Like,
it's going to be
like,
yeah, it's going to be like Tetsuo the Iron Man. For those of you who've seen Iron Man.
You just start fusing with Blu-rays, and that's how we'll find you one day.
What a way to go, though. What a way to go. I went out like I lived, surrounded by cinema.
Well, you become cinema.
Yeah, I become cinema, just injected into my veins.
Yes. I recently, had a moment where I decide like something has to be done here. Does one of my my indicator shelf need to turn into an indicator bin under my bed or something like that? Because I am really like packed to the gills here. I'm running out of space. I try to just display the stuff that's like a special label, something really shelf worthy. But oh gosh, these Manhattan apartments, let me tell you. And then when I thought like, okay, I can do this, I can create space. What does Imprint just tweet out? The actual like scale size of this never-ending story thing. It's bigger than I am. It's enormous. What am I going to do with this thing?
Well, it's never ending. They're just trying to go along with the title. But I mean, that's a saga. Longer than Star Wars. We talk about needing shelf space, but. We'll just start with these one first time watches we all chose tonight. So
Happy Noirvember.
yes, Noirvember. We chose the theme since we are in November. We love to celebrate Noirvember. I always find it actually kind of this is actually easy to find noirs personally that I haven't seen because there's so many of them. There's so many noirs. All these labels put out tons of noir sets that I own that are just kind of just waiting for me to just pick something out of it. And I picked one that isn't in a box set that I just kind of have needed to get around to that I was really excited to watch, but we'll get to me later. As usual, we always like to start with our guest who has brought us which film is your first time watch?
Well, I can relate to everything you're saying here. In that, Indicator and Imprint and Kino, they put out these really great noir box sets. These and usually titles that are fairly obscure. They're not the big heavy hitters, and they sit there on the shelf and they mock me because I get one and I think like, ooh, I really want to watch that one, and then maybe I watch one and then I put it back on the shelf. And what I should do is like just blast through a set or something, and that's what. With hubris, I thought I was going to do this week. I thought, let me get one of these shelves, these sets off the shelf, and I can watch as many as I can. And I thought, like, let me stay thematic, and I thought I would do the Indicator Whistler box set. I did 3 of them, but really just the first one is I'll stick to. But yeah, this has been on my list for a while. I was really excited. Actually, during lockdown, I was doing some radio dramas, some like on Zoom and some other things for a local theater company. And I did a few episodes of The Whistler, which was my first real exposure to it. There were a lot of old radio programs I used to love when I was younger and would listen to regularly. Never did The Whistler. Always just assumed like, well, who's the Whistler? He's like a detective who shows up, like, oh no, you just killed your husband, and knock, knock, knock. Hello, I'm the Whistler. Whisk, whisk, whisk. I didn't want to blow out my microphone with a whistle or something. But no, it's I learned when I did these radio plays live that like, oh no, the Whistler is more of an idea than a human being. He's not a character per se. I mean, you could read into him any way you want. He's
he's like the Watcher from like he's just kind of like always there, but he's never getting involved.
Exactly. Yeah. He's vaguely satanic. Maybe maybe he's death incarnate. He's the Grim Reaper, and he just sort of watches over these situations and is rather amused by them. But yes, he narrates each episode, or doesn't narrate so much. He introduces the characters, and then every once in a while he'll chime in and say, "Oh well, look what he's up to right now. Oh, how do we think Richard Dix is gonna get out of this one? Only I, the Whistler, know." So yeah, what a fun discovery too. That the first Whistler film, and I think a few down the line, is directed by William Castle, who I am a huge fan of. And this is like so his bread and butter, right? Like this is, it kind of has this feeling of like a precursor to Alfred Hitchcock Presents or The Twilight Zone, with the Whistler as your host. And yeah, it feels like definitely in that William Castle vein of like, almost a little gimmicky at times, a little schlocky, but he commits to it. I know both of you have seen maybe all the Whistler films. I know you all have this.
I think Andrew saw them all back when it was first announced, and I've watched because I bought the set as well. I think I watched the first 4 maybe. I'm 3 deep, and I'm impressed that they are varied in their like sort of approach to storytelling. They're not all like, some guy just committed murder. I just watched one with like sort of amnesia story. One thing that I was surprised to discover is they're all Richard Dix. Like, well, actually, I don't think he's in the later ones because I think he dies. But it was seen as this vehicle for Richard Dix, the actor, who we know from many other noir films. I didn't
it's an odd approach, I would say, because you would think like, oh, it's like an anthology series, like it's a different story every time. The only connective tissue is this Whistler character who is narrating it. You could have any actor in there. It's odd to have the same one again and again. He is very good. He has that deep Richard Dix voice. And I really like him in this first film, which is about a man who he hires a nefarious individual to murder someone, and it's only over time we learn that someone is him. He wants to die, and he's too much of a coward to. Well, there's a whole life insurance thing too, but yes, he wants to be killed because he is grieving the death of his wife, who was lost at sea, drowned. And little does he know that only after paying out to the guy to kill him, a telegram comes in. It's like, sir, your wife has been found. She's been in a Japanese internment camp. Good news, we're bringing her out to you. And so suddenly he has something to live for. But wouldn't you know it, the guy who he paid to have him killed was killed himself just moments after handing the job off to his number one guy. So he doesn't know who to go to. He doesn't know how to cancel the contract. And it's really fun. It's super twisty. You really don't know what's going to happen. It does deal some little surprise blows down the line. You get different points of view. You get the guy who is going to kill him is a character in his own right. And he goes through some moral quandaries as well. And then you have that Whistler who you never see, but every once in a while, like even the characters can feel this ominous presence of the Whistler. So yeah, so I really, there it is. I really enjoyed this one. I liked the other two. The second one is, I think, pretty strong mark of the Whistler, and then the power of the Whistler, the Amnesia one, little silly. Not sure if Richard Dix.
They vary in quality when it comes to storytelling for sure. But they all seem to be. There is a consistency to them that I think that they're taking some swings. Like all of them start, especially the later ones. When William Castle leaves, they start trying to take more swings because they think that's what William Castle would do. I think it's still there's still enough of a watchability to the ones that as they go along. I do need to finish it out, but that's what I thought it was and it's fun that they're all like an hour and 15 minutes.
I was gonna say, it's like the other nice thing about it is that they never, even the ones, if you have a bit of a dud, they don't overstay their welcome. Yeah. Like you're in and out pretty quick. I think the longest one is like 100 or 71 minutes or something. It's nice that I love these sort of precursors to episodic television, these anthology series that were like, well, yeah, I mean, just make a 2-reeler and play it at the theater as a triple feature. And these are really fun. I'm definitely going to finish out the set for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, beautiful set too. The green.
Oh,
I like the Indicator. We've talked about it many times. Indicator just knows how to do a set.
I know. I can't put these things under my bed. What am I thinking?
Yeah, what are you thinking? You have to display them all. Jesus. It's more likely you should just put like, do you have like all the Saw movies or something?
No, I don't. But my co-hosts on my podcast are obsessed with the Saw movies. And I think I've seen 2 of them. And well, it's enough for me.
That's enough. That's enough. Great, man. I love the pick when you told me you were going to do the Whistlers. I was like, okay. Well, now I'm really curious because you told me that you're never going to guess what I pair it with. So
that was sarcasm. It'll be obvious once you see it.
So it's going to be a movie about somebody that whistles.
No, there might be some whistling in this one. Yeah, I think someone whistles.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get back around to that. Andrew.
Yes.
Please tell us about your first time watch.
Okay. My first time watch is coincidentally also from an Indicator Noir set, and that is from Noir set number 3, Columbia Noir number 3. And just like Johnny said, these are gorgeous, incredible sets. That was really what got me into the whole Indicator / Powerhouse brand, was really these sets, because when the first one came out, people could not stop talking about it. And then of course they came out with subsequent sets. Well, I believe the Whistlers, their latest Columbia one, which is number 6, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, number 6 is number 5 was the Humphrey Bogart set.
Bogart, yeah.
That was the Humphrey Bogart set.
And then
now
of course now
starting.
there's Universal
I was just
Noir,
gonna say,
and yeah.
they're doing Universal Noir. They already have 2 of those out. But these Columbia sets, dive a little, not quite deep into the Columbia back catalog of stuff, but deep enough to where you get certain film noirs that you haven't seen before, or perhaps certain B film noirs, or whatever the case may be. And the one I chose to watch from this set here is The Sniper. The Sniper, which is directed by Edward Dmytryk, came out in 1952. This is one that I saw many people that I follow on Letterboxd had already seen, including Steven himself. Probably dove right into from this set. And these come in these thin digibook collector's packages, if you will. Not the regular size cases, but this movie is interesting to me because it's something of a precursor to a lot of other things later on, and certainly things that a lot of more modern films. So this movie is about a guy who you would guess is a sniper, and what he does is that he has this compulsion, or he's fighting against himself to have this compulsion to kind of go out and shoot people with his sniper rifle, specifically targeting women. So he's someone who's specifically targeting women because of certain background reasons that they don't really quite get into too deep in this film, but you can kind of see what they're going for. And in the movie, he's constantly battling, constantly fighting against himself, constantly carrying on existential crises throughout. And I found it interesting because you didn't see a lot of that within film noir. Usually film noir is a little bit there's a little bit black and white kind of stuff going on in film noir. Not to be too specific about it, because most classic film noir is in black and white. But this movie was just kind of filled with gray. And I know gray morality is a big thing within the world of film noir as well. And I felt like this one took it into an even darker direction, with this man just kind of I would say absent-mindedly killing people on the street. Women who are connected to him, women who are not connected with him. It could be some woman that he just sees from afar, and she just like annoys him innately for just existing. And that gets into a lot of interesting thematic things that I think are very contemporary, specifically things like misogyny and hate towards women, and the whole kind of battle of the sexes between men and women and things like that is ripe within our society now, especially when it comes to social media and all phases of political world, sports world, pop culture in general, all of those things. And to address some of those things in 1952, I found to be rather fascinating and way ahead of its time. Rather progressive, really. And the film, I thought, was really good in balancing also not only that character and his character journey and what he was doing, but also the police investigation behind it and how they are dealing with it, because they kind of don't know quite how to handle it, because it's growing as the victim list goes on and on. People are starting to panic. People are asking questions. The cops are strained. The people are strained. It gets to the point where if you find anybody who kind of looks nefarious, people will, bring them to the cops or something, or blame them as being the sniper, if you will. It's very interesting and fascinating how you get this kind of balance between those two worlds, and also dealing with the idea of mental health when it comes to criminals and criminal acts and evil morality and all of those things. There's portions of this movie where the police and local authorities, political politicians, stuff discuss, like, what do you do with individuals like this? What do you do with them? Do you just lock them up? Do they go to mental hospitals to be rehabilitated and then you release them back into society? Is that a possibility? And these are questions that I think are really still part of today's society when it comes to the whole penal system that we have now, where it comes to reforming people and whatnot, and can they be reformed depending on the crimes they commit, how much time they've done, what justice has been served, all of those things. And you can derive a lot of that from this film. So I got a lot out of it. I got a lot out of it,
Sounds
as
like
I can say. Um, So yeah, that's the sniper. Edward Dmytryk is a director we've talked about on Chasing Labels a lot because a lot of his stuff has been getting Blu-ray releases in the boutique world from everywhere, pretty much. And he was a workman's director pretty much throughout his career. He did get caught up in the whole House Un-American Activities Committee and the blacklisting and all that stuff. And this was actually the first film that he did after coming back from exile from all of those things. This was, I believe, produced by Stanley Kramer, who is no stranger to a politically tinged film. That seemed to very much be part of his not only producerial filmography, but when he went on and directed a lot of films as well.
Yeah, Andrew, this film had been on my list. I think for a while now, after like hearing Eddie Muller reference it, as the man does,
Yes.
and it's like, ooh, I need to see that, and I didn't even realize that I had it in one of those damn Columbia sets. And usually I check those things. Usually that's the first place I check. So yeah, I tried to watch it concurrently with you tonight. I have about half an hour left, so don't tell me how it ends.
I
But
won't.
it really has some show-stopping moments. And you are right about it being ahead of its time. I will not step on your toes and name any film, just in case it's your thematic pairing. But I kept thinking, like, wow, we give a lot of credit to films that came out 15 to 20 years later as like being like, whoa, no one's ever touched something like this before. And yeah, this is 1952.
I think
Yeah,
we
yeah.
might all. I can't wait to hear what everybody thinks because I have a film too in my mind, but I don't want to ruin it because I've had that happen. I've had that happen to me before. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No.
I've done it. I've done it to Steven. Coincidentally, you mentioned Eddie Muller. He does an audio commentary for this
Oh,
edition.
does he? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he's
And
a fan.
yeah, there's an intro by Martin Scorsese as well, which is also really nice. And I think there's a short film on here as well. It's a good release. The Eddie Muller commentary in and of itself is worth owning.
Yeah.
This
I love
the box
also
set for.
what you were saying about the investigative side of it, because yeah, we do our protagonist, I guess, who we're following is the titular sniper, but yeah, we do get a lot of the investigators. I'll let you speak to it if you would like, but there's a really great sequence with this police lineup with this room where they are interviewing them one by one, and I thought that scene was fantastic.
Yeah, they bring in just a lineup of guys, and it's it's the usual suspects, if you will, to quote that line, where it's people who have been in prison before for uh, a character trait list of what the description of this person may be. People who've been abusive to women, people who've have like drunken disorderly problems, basically everybody in there. And like I said, it's just kind of like trying to find out who this is when it could be so many different people.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I
the
mean?
cops are like harassing them and like almost like egging them on to like confess.
Yes.
And meanwhile, you have this psychiatrist who's sitting there saying, it's none of these guys. I promise you, he's not going to be in this group.
Yeah, there's one guy. Yeah, they're trying to egg him on. It's like, oh, you like, oh, do you have a gun? Do you like to shoot people? Is that what you like to do? And the guy's like, I've never shot a gun in my life. You know what I mean? And it's kind of one of those scenes where it's those back and forth between the police and the people, and it's there's several scenes like that when they're just trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, and just a great example of how like the cops, like this is a new kind of crime. I mean, look, murder has existed for a long time, but something about this feels different. And you have this group of police who are like, we don't know how to solve this. We don't know who to profile and how. This is something new that we're not used to.
It makes me bring up the idea that the whole concept of a serial killer in quotes has only been around, I think, since the 1970s. So it would be decades before they kind of figured out this whole profiling thing and trying to get that down to a science. And so and this is like urban type setting. Like this is in a city. It's set in San Francisco, but they don't tell you it's San Francisco.
Yeah. You just have to look for the bridges in the background.
Yeah, look for the bridges and the hills. And the hills.
That's where all the killers are. That's where all the serial killers, famous ones.
What is interesting is that it is a West Coast noir. A lot of noirs were more East Coast based. New York City predominantly. So that was interesting how the city kind of plays a role in that as well. But San Francisco gives a different vibe than a New York City. It for some reason San Francisco feels more wide open, maybe because there's less skyscrapers, so you see just more air. That's how I felt it, and it kind of made the film more wide open in terms of like where these investigators have to search. Like it feels so much larger as opposed to New York, where everything is so like intimate and small. Then you can perhaps, be within a certain radius. You could find who you're looking for. I just felt like San Francisco felt more wide open to me.
Yeah, it's less densely populated for sure.
Yes.
You could walk for a mile in San Francisco and not see a lot of people, depending on where you are there.
Yeah. It's been a minute since I watched it, but I always found that it was just alone ahead of its time on the fact that it was just so kind of shocking, with its violence, with its gun violence. Like it was just, I was like, wow, this is a 1952 film, like in its imagery of shooting people, and like it just felt like it was. I was like, why doesn't this movie get talked about more? Like it's pretty out there, So, but yeah, I'm glad you finally got a chance to watch it. So, all right. Well, before you got anything else? I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for you to get into yours.
Well, before I do that, we've gotten a lot of comments, people coming in. Humboldt Horror Honey says hi. Of course, we got Josephine jumping in, saying hey to everybody. Of course, Josephine's got a bunch of first-time watches.
Ooh, that's
have anybody seen Tango and Cash is a classic.
All
Destry Rides Again. That's good.
Oh, I love Destry Rides Again.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to. My wife does karate, and I've been meaning to show her They Call Me Bruce, like on one of those nights where it's like, okay, let's watch a real Bruce Lee movie, and then let's watch the horribly offensive parody of Bruce Lee movies, and enjoy both of them for different reasons.
Yakuza Graveyard, I believe I've seen. I think that's Fukuyama is the director.
Listen, that's the Radiant. Radiance put it out. I have it.
Yes,
I did it on one of the Unwatched piles.
Yes. Also, some music she heard on the radio, I believe. Oh no, that's movies. Where's your music? Here we go. Some songs heard on the Hold My Hand. The song you hear all the time. Are You Gonna Be a Girl? Jet, man, I met Jet back in the day. They were touring in America, and I got a chance to meet them all. They're good guys. Australians. They're actually getting back together, make a new album.
Nice.
But everybody wants to know why this isn't in black and white once again, and I'm telling you, I would have done it if I knew how.
You mentioned fedoras. I was thinking of getting my fedora. I got halfway up the stairs, and I'm like, oh, forget it. I've worn it before, and it doesn't quite work with the headphones. I have to have the headphones like leaning back, and they fall off. It's a whole big thing.
I could take up smoking if you think it would help. Like, you think
that would we could all smoke. I'm drinking coffee. Is that kind of noirish?
Sure.
I guess.
In an Edward Hopper sort of way.
I mean, I could turn off the lights and it would be really dark in here. I
know. It'd screw with your lighting, though.
Yeah. But, all right. So, getting around to my first time watching. This was one I've been kind of looking for an excuse to get around to. I guess I'm the neo-noir guy today because you guys are doing kind of classic noirs. Mine is a neo-noir. It's a color film. So, and this one, it came out in 2005, and that is the South Korean film, A Bittersweet Life. This is the umbrella release of it. I know Second Sight just put out a 4K. I'm kind of want to get it, but I don't know. This is a good release. I don't know if I need to jump over and just buy it again. I do that too much. So, but this is Bittersweet Life, directed by Kim Ji-woon, who is, I Saw the Devil. I think it's Good, the Bad, and the Weird is another big one he did.
And then I Saw the Devil. Oh, yeah. And then
I said that already.
Yeah, Tale of Two Sisters.
Tale of Two Sisters. Great film, too. Really good director. And so Bittersweet Life follows, played by the actor Lee Bong-hung. I don't know. You know me, I can't pronounce names. But he's been in a lot of films. He's actually been in some American films as well. I believe he was in the remake of Magnificent Seven. But you would know him. He was in I Saw the Devil and everything like that. But he plays kind of the lead in this film. He's kind of a head of security type for this mob boss. You know, he's you know, and their home base is in like this big hotel. But so he's been working for this boss for I think he said 7 years. He's just kind of very clinical. He's very much, you know, that's all he does. His whole life is this life, working for this boss. And one day his boss calls him in and says, "Hey, look, I met this woman. I'm smitten with her. I fell in love with her, but I think she's seeing another guy. So I need you to go and check to see if she's seeing another guy. I'm going out of town. Well, I'm out of town for 3 days. You go see if she's seeing another guy. And if she is, then I'm going to need you to take care of it. You know, I'm going to need you to kill him." So, you know, he feels a little weird about it, but, you know, it's his job. So he goes and follows this girl. You know, he meets her, and, you know, he seems to kind of take a little bit of, you know, he's keeping his distance, but he's kind of like watching her with curiosity. And then, and this isn't spoiling the movie. This is the setup of this is the beginning. He finds out that she is seeing somebody, and then instead of deciding to kill them, he lets them go, and then it gets him in trouble with the boss, and now he is fighting for his life. That's the movie, and it's awesome. It is, you know, it's definitely a noir in the sense, I think, of some of its themes more than anything, I think, kind of delve into some noir territory. It does have some visual that you could maybe say is a little neo-noirish. You know, he's wearing a suit a lot. You know, it's in this, you know, the city. There's some imagery that's kind of there, but I think more or less that this film at the center is kind of dealing with this, like, this guy who's this very hardened character, kind of becoming softened by a woman, and kind of seeing innocence, you know, and like wanting to like seeing a better life that he would like for himself, and then trying to fight for that is like, you know, it's that's where some of it is there, right there. And then with it does have some fantastic action in it. It's sparse. It's not like all through the movie, but there's a particular great action scene where he's tied up and taken captive, and then he has to fight his way out. And it's really, really awesome. But yeah, I love the film. You guys seen A Bittersweet Life?
Yes, I actually haven't seen this one since it came out.
Okay.
I'm not sure why I haven't.
Almost 10 years. So
yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, because it's a 2005 film, but like that was like in Korea, and I think it took a little longer to get here. But yeah, I really loved it when I saw it. And I've really enjoyed. Yeah, I'm not the biggest I Saw the Devil guy. I never like it as much as I want to. I respect it. It's good. It's effective. It is, you know, it goes places.
It's a brutal movie.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, when am I in the mood for that? Whereas like Good, the Bad, and the Weird, I love. And I remember really loving this, but it's been so long since I've seen it. So it is still wrapped in my umbrella shrink wrap. Maybe I will break it out tonight after this, because you have put me in the mood. Cool, man.
Well, if I could, I wish I could do that with my wife. You know, like talk about a movie, and then she'd be like, "I'm in the mood to watch that." It never works. It never works.
Well, I think one of the best things, at least I get, you know, best compliments I ever get here from Chasing Labels and just in general, is when you can talk about a movie that someone's never seen and it makes them want to see it.
Sure.
You know, I've gotten that a few times with a few films, and it's like, that's kind of awesome, because that's kind of always my goal, is to get people interested in stuff that they may not be aware of, because that's how I got into movies, was just listening to people talk about it and describe it.
It's like going to your video store, you know, like
very much.
It's not necessarily that we're here to be educators, but that we're here to be positive spreaders of the word. You know?
We're like missionaries.
We're Mormons.
We're like missionaries for cinema, pretty much.
Yeah, we're missionaries.
And
we'll have to stop drinking the coffee then if we adopt the Mormon lifestyle. Yeah,
I guess so. But I have seen a Bittersweet.
I'm more Amish than Mormon right now, so
I have seen A Bittersweet Life, and I watched it when this was announced, actually. So I watched it. You know, obviously it's been couple of years now since this came out. And yeah, I was immediately struck by how great the movie is, just in general, just how great it is and how nuanced it is, and how it's it's not a movie where you are obviously are rooting for this protagonist, but this protagonist is going through it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? He's not this superhero guy who can overcome everything. He's going through a difficult time because he's within the world of organized crime in any faction. If you screw up, bad things are going to happen to you. And this movie doesn't shy away from that idea, especially on the level that this guy kind of is. Granted, he's kind of like a low level guy, but he's close enough to somebody where someone trusts him enough to do this type of job. But if you screw up at that level, there's consequences. You know what I mean? Things are going to happen to you. So I was really fascinated by that. And I think, Kim Ji-woon is also a director whom, from what I've seen from the work I've seen from him, he doesn't shy away from really anything. Like, he goes for it no matter what. Um, and I can really respect that. And there's something, Korean cinema has an edge to it that you don't really see a lot here. And you don't see a lot in other kind of foreign markets and foreign cinema and things like that. And I can bring up things like Bong Joon-ho's films, and of course there's the Vengeance trilogy, Park Chan-wook and all that kind of stuff as well. All of those directors are kind of in the same type of playground. So if you like one of them, you may start liking the other ones.
They
You know,
tend
I
to be
feel
able to
like
find a way to mix violence and social political satire into all their, like, they find a way to weave that shit like crazy, like in all of them directors in some way,
yeah,
you
and
know.
it's
Yeah.
very, very good.
And
I'm
all those directors, for me personally, like though, the rise of Park Chan Wook and Bong Joon Ho was happening, and this film too was happening like when I was in college, and like
Yeah.
I was just like just feed it all to me, hooked it up to my veins. Like I just ate it all up. I loved it, and so it was a real right place, right time for me. And so for a while, I was just very, very into Korean cinema, and especially all the gritty crime thrillers and whatnot.
The memories of murder and
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember when Memories of Murder came out from Criterion, that movie kept selling out so fast during the sales and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like just trying to get your hands on it was like trying to find gold really at that
Mhm.
time. But yeah, they're all really, like I said, they're all kind of playing that same type of sandbox. And it's like Johnny said, just give me all of it because it's all really, really good. And they all have enough distinction between them to where you can differentiate between them, but there's still this through line that connects them all in some way. It's tough to explain. You just kind of have to watch them to kind of understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good pick. Good pick.
No, well, I mean, I just picked it because I didn't watch it. I hadn't seen it. I didn't
Mm.
know it was going to be a good pick.
Mhm.
It
Yes,
was
that's
a
true.
great, one of my favorite first time watches, I think, doing this. So, all right. Well, let's make our way back around. It is now Johnny who's going to surprise us
Yes,
with his
yes.
pairing
Well,
to the Whistler.
to the Whistler. Well, I did a lot of thinking about the Whistler. An old time radio character. 1940s noir, 30s even when the radio show started, but like what really defines this guy, as where I'm showing on the video, the guy on the box. We don't see him in the movie really. We see a shadow every once in a while. We'll see like a hat, but yeah, there's not much to him, and yet like he does remind me of someone. Like he does look like very like I look at this image, I say I've seen this before. It's all coming together. It's like,
where is this going? I know where
but
this is
who
going.
knows? Who knows who he really is, and also who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of man? Which is why I went schlocky, and I went with Alec Baldwin in The Shadow.
I would have never guessed.
Yeah. No.
I had
They
a
kind of
feeling.
have the same profile. They both have the same elongated
Uh-huh.
nose. Alec Baldwin wears this ridiculous nose putty in the movie to whenever he turns into the shadow. It's so funny. I love it every time it happens. Either of you seen it? Anyone around in 1994 super jazzed for The Shadow?
You know what's crazy? I've been wanting to see that movie for years. I remember when it came out, I would have been like 7 years old in '94, so obviously I didn't see it at the time. Um, but I've been wanting to see it for years. So you're reminding me I still need to see it.
Oh, fun. Well, yeah, it was going to, so this earlier this summer, I did like a marathon over like 2 days, just a long weekend of like, let me see how many Batman ripoffs I can watch. Like movies that came out in the 90s that existed because Batman was a hit. So I did your Dark Man, and I did The Shadow and The Phantom, which, in my experience, there, oh, see, I'm getting a thumbs up from Andrew.
Yeah,
In my experience, you have the shadow people and you have the phantom people.
I'm a
Mm.
Phantom person.
And I'm a shadow person. And I really tried. Every time I watch the Phantom, I think this time I'm going to see it. This time I'm going to see the thing that everyone loves about this movie. And I do love Treat Williams. He's just hilarious in that movie. He's so much fun. But and Billy Zane looks so good in that suit. Oh, it's so purple and velvety, and he's in the jungle, and it's great. And Christy Swanson sucks. She's just awful. And I never have as much fun with that movie as I want to. I think that the ideal way to watch The Phantom is like in a bar with the sound off. Like you're just like catching glimpses, and you'll see it and go like, oh wow, this movie looks freaking great. And then you watch it with the sound on. It's like, it has its moments. Meanwhile, The Shadow, I think, is a lot of fun. This was like when Alec Baldwin was, he had done his Jack Ryan thing. They were still trying to figure out what to do with him. He was kind of resisting movie stardom. Anytime he came close to something, he would go to Broadway and do a play. And this was like maybe the closest he came to like doing a full-on superhero movie. And it is very Batman-y. It is like a noir. It's like in the 40s, I believe. And the movie starts like in the most unexpected way of going to the Far East, where there's this villainous man who is tormenting the village and whatnot. It's like, oh, who could this be? And then you pan up to see like a long-haired Alec Baldwin with like a handful of coke nails. Like he's like in an opium den. He's and like, yeah, he's the bad guy. And it's kind of fun to see his journey from being this sort of villainous person to becoming the Shadow and channeling the darkness within him for good. And this movie is silly, but in the best ways. It is also packed with character actors, unexpected ones too, like Peter Boyle and Jonathan Winters like popping up for no good reason. And you get oh wait, where did I Penelope Ann Miller is the femme, or not femme fatale. She's the like goody little shadow girlfriend. She's a little dull, I find. And then you have John Lone, fresh from The Last Emperor, is the villain, and he is really good. I really like him in this movie. You even have like Tim Curry like backing him up as his sidekick. This is an era when Tim Curry was always the villain, if he was available, and it's sort of cool to see Tim Curry like being just the second banana to John Lone, who was really great. Ian McKellen's in there, and they actually shot it in New York, which is weird because it's a period piece, and yet they're like walking down streets where I'm like, oh, I know exactly where they are. I can't believe they spent the money to dress this up to make it look like the 1940s. Yeah, it's a hard film to defend. I don't think it's like great or anything, but it is fun, and it is a brand of superhero movie that I would like to see come back, because I kind of checked out of the whole Marvel thing, and even the most recent Batman ones. It's like, oh, we keep getting darker and grittier and more modern. And what I would love, and I do think someone's going to figure this out in a few years or so, I would love to see some of these franchises go period again. I would like to see Batman in the 40s. I would like to see James Bond in the 60s. I think it would be a fresh way to revitalize this. Yeah, this gives you a little taste of that, I think. And this is a Scream Factory disc. Don't buy it. I'm sure they're going to upgrade it to 4K with all the same special features and charge more for it. That's just like what they do now. So yeah, just give it a few months. I'm sure they'll do that. But this is from a time of Shout Factory, Scream Factory, when they had the money and they would like produce really good special features. And you have like the director and Baldwin and Penelope Ann Miller, all of them doing interviews on this thing, and it's it's great. I watched through all of it, and they all have good memories. Yeah. I was thinking about that. Jeff K is asking, but is there whistling? I think you get a little either Peter Boyle or Jonathan Winters like walking down the street whistling. I should have been more savvy to looking out for that.
Well, you got the image though. I agree with you. The
Yeah.
image of Baldwin, it is very similar to the Whistler. So this could be like the prequel.
Yeah, they're
movie.
probably buddies. Like,
Yeah.
they hang out.
Yeah, I like it, man. I've never seen The Shadow either, and now I want to watch it. So I feel like I should watch that along with other great '90s superhero films, like not even just the ones you mentioned, but like things like even Mystery Men. Mystery
Sure.
Men's Borderline. That was at like '99.
Yep.
Yeah, one of my wife's favorites.
Yeah. There's just a lot of fun movies then. Yeah, even The Mask is a comic book.
No, I think
Yeah.
that fits right in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
same summer. The Mask ate this movie's lunch.
Mhm. But awesome. Yes, I love it. I'm gonna do that. I mean, I've seen The Whistler, so now I just need to watch The Shadow, and I'll know after that if that was a good pairing.
The other films that I did in that Batman, inspired by Batman series, were Darkman, Dick Tracy, The Phantom, and The Rocketeer. So I ran through all of those.
Yes.
And so The Shadow is not the best or worst of that batch, I would say.
No.
But it's fun. And I will admit, I was kind of cheating because I on my podcast, Authorized, we are doing the Shadow novelization in a few months, and I'm going to have to watch it again anyway. So it's like, let me kill two birds with one stone on that one.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, you got to do, man. You got to do that, man. Sometimes. More shout outs. Another Steven.
Steve.
Ah,
Nice.
Yes. All right. Well, I love it, man. Andrew,
Yes.
please tell us.
Yes.
Surprise. I think me and Johnny had an idea. We had some ideas in our head about what you're going to pair with this. So let's see if we were right.
What's interesting is I also had some immediate ideas that popped into my head while watching it, and I didn't go in another direction that's too far off the mark, but it's a film that I don't really talk about a lot or don't talk about enough, and it's another kind of classic seminal film school type of film, and that is Fritz Lang's M.
Ooh.
That was one of the ones in my mind, but that was
Was that
the
one of
I
the ones
thought
in your
you were
mind? Because initially in my mind, I was thinking Peeping Tom, I was thinking Psycho.
I was thinking
two-
Targets.
Yeah.
I was
same.
thinking Targets as well. Those are the three. And I couldn't remember if I had brought up Targets before on one of these Unwatched piles. I didn't want to double do
We
it.
really need to put our
I was almost.
we're at a
gonna
point
ask
now
you.
where we should probably go backlog so we're not like picking the same. Like,
yes,
I think
certainly on Unwatched Pile, or I mean on Chasing Labels, there was a lot of Targets talk. When that came out on Criterion, we were all so excited.
Yeah.
Everyone couldn't stop talking about it.
And I've rewatched it since, and it's still just as good. And that movie is probably as closely connected to the Sniper as anything, because it's literally somebody who goes on top of a rooftop or someplace and snipes people, and kills people willy-nilly, you know what I mean? Without kind of regard for any type of rhyme or
there's
reason.
a literal parallel there that works.
There's a literal
really
parallel.
well. But I think thematically, M
Yeah,
works really well.
thematically, M and the Sniper vibe on a level that was way lower, was way more sumptuous, if you will, because this is going back 20 years earlier to 1931, and this is dealing with things that the Sniper was talking about in, what did I say, 1952?
Yeah.
So when we talked about, Johnny brought up the idea that, films 15 years or so after the Sniper would get into a lot of things that the Sniper was getting into. M is getting into things the Sniper was getting into years earlier as well. So you've got this kind of balance of where cinema's kind of trending, if you will, within the decades. Like every 10 to 20 years, they're getting into similar things, and we've seen it now. Like every movie is kind of a riff on another movie from the past. We've seen all of this happen before, but M specifically is, like I said, it's Film School 101, it's Criterion 101. I think it's a must own for any fan of cinema, and with the big C and all that stuff. This film stars Peter Lorre. It's a German film. It's from the German Expressionism era of cinema, the 20s and 30s. It's a film that came out, like I said, 1931, so right after the talkies started becoming a thing. So you get a lot of feeling of the silent era within this movie, and I think that also works for the visual medium of just storytelling. And this movie's whereas The Sniper was dealing with someone who is victimizing women, this is something that's I would it's still as bad, maybe even more sinister in victimizing children, going out and victimizing children, and doing so because of an inherent compulsion to do so. Something that is still could be taken right from today's news headlines, unfortunately. This idea of harming children, kidnapping children, et cetera, et cetera. You can fill in the blanks there. Just harsh reality that we live in. And that idea, murder, whether it be children, women, whomever, has been around with humanity for centuries. It's just now that we're it's more widely known now. And like I said before many times on Chasing Labels, cinema is often a reflection of the time in which it's made. And unfortunately, we keep seeing the same things being talked about over and over again because as a society, we haven't fixed any of these big time problems. And in this film here, they don't really fix the problems because, in similar to The Sniper, there's a group of people, authorities around trying to figure out what to do about this situation. Children are being kidnapped, children are being killed, uh, people are mad, authorities are mad, politicians are mad, society is mad. But what do we do about it? Because the individual that they're searching for um, is probably not the only one who does things like this. He's just kind of a monolith of who they're going after. But once again, society doesn't know how to deal with this type of harsh reality. And there is and how do you deal with these individuals? There's another scene in here that deals with, like, do you send them to do you send them to prison? Do you send them to a mental hospital? Are these people able to be reformed? And these are questions that kind of don't really ever have answers because they're so specific. But this movie is just incredibly well made. Most of it is told from the perspective of the investigators, whereas the other film was more balanced. Definitely told from the perspective of the investigators and of the people who are dealing with it on that very basic level. It's not until you get later on in the film, and as the film goes along, you start seeing the Peter Lorre character, and then you get to this climactic ending, which is iconic. And Peter Lorre acts probably the best you've ever seen him act ever in his career at the end of this, where you see the self-loathing, the regret, the self-hate, and just the mental just I don't know how to say this, the mental erosion of someone who does these types of things. It's quite harrowing that they were able to pull that off in 1931, where it could be something that you could see in a movie today.
Yeah.
That's M by Fritz Lang. There's so much to say about it. People have probably written, papers on this. People have done seminars on these types of films. But yeah, I just thought about M because I've never really gotten to talk about M, and it's been a long time since I've seen it. I probably haven't seen this movie in a dozen years or so. So it's nice to revisit it after all this time with a new perspective.
It's one I think that definitely like gets better if you give it a little time between viewings and then you come back to it, and then it's always a better film than you remember it being. And it really is a masterpiece. It's a devastating portrayal by Peter Lorre. Like, yeah, he is he is not he is not an evil villainous character. It is a tragic, horrible thing where, yes, he is a monster, but he hates himself. He doesn't want to do these things, but he has to do these things.
Mm.
And it's yeah, one of my favorite things that he was ever a part of.
It gets into the idea that the people who do these things, these monstrous things, it it's a mental health issue that it's not fully addressed. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
even
It's
now.
never
Yeah.
really fully addressed. Whether it be somebody who has the compulsion of the sniper to just, will it just kill people and still have a conscience, or some who don't have a conscience, or someone who does things like this are also like suffering from some type of mental disease, where it is a disease that is seemingly inherent in humanity, and we don't know how to fix it. Even as time and the decades have gone on, we haven't fixed it.
Yeah.
So that's why, like you're saying, Johnny, this movie gets more and more profound as time goes on, more prophetic, and stands the test of time, as the saying goes.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that I guess it's subject matter that we don't like to think about, even as escapist entertainment, as a thriller. But I am surprised. Yeah, you could remake this for every generation. I'm curious, have you ever seen the Joseph Losey remake from 1951?
I've not
Because,
seen it.
yeah, so I also was thinking about M quite a bit watching the Sniper, but even though you can't beat Fritz Lang in the original, I was thinking almost more of the Joseph Losey version, which is the same story but set in 1950s Los Angeles, and it is a much more Hollywood noir version of the story, and is also excellent. It really is a good film. I don't think there is a physical release for that, maybe in any country, but I'm certain on the US. So it's one of those that, like, if it ever pops up on TCM, and it does from time to time, I always make a point to see it. But yeah, it is fascinating to see that same story translated to a different setting, a different tone, but still being just as effective. And yeah, I love both versions.
Yeah, I think it's a film like you guys were saying, like it's still relevant today, and I think it becomes more relevant because it feels like, unfortunately, it feels like our world has become less and less human. Like we become more detached, less empathetic, and so this scenario that happens in this film is like a snapshot of humanity when we were way more human then, when we cared about our neighbors a lot more, things like that. So it's almost like such a time capsule, that I think it's good, like you said, with some time coming back to it. It feels so much more powerful when you give it time, because we're living in this world now that just seems to get further away from that. And then when you go look back, you're like, wow, like that's powerful. Like just to get that feeling again. So, but good pick. Yeah, it was one of the ones running around in my mind. I was like, I'm thinking Targets, but M would be good. And, it's a good choice.
Yeah, I really wish I had given you a sealed envelope, Karnak style.
Yeah,
that you could open after you revealed it. Aha, I knew it. Yeah.
Jeff K says he thought you were going to do Deadly Tower as your pairing. I haven't seen it, but it's the film with Kurt Russell. It's a TV movie.
Oh.
Where he plays famous American sniper, Charles Whitman.
Okay.
Based on Stephen King work. So, yeah, I haven't seen it, but I think I've heard about it. I've heard people talk about that film. All right. Well, I guess it's down to me.
This could be anything.
It could be, no, well, not really. No, it could be anything. It'd be weird. Pinocchio?
Why not?
But so this one, I was having a trouble narrowing which one I wanted down, because I felt like there was a few films that I thought would fit well with this, but I needed to pick the right one that I felt because I'm always focusing more on theme pairings than I am story pairings or actor pairings or director. I don't care. I don't usually care about that. It's more like, is there something at the central of my first time watch that I think is at the core that I think would pair well? So there's a couple that, like, the first thing that kind of came to mind, it was more based off the story than anything. I was like, John Wick. I was like, John Wick would be fun. It's got the fighting in it. Like, of course, John Wick takes it to the extreme. The movie's got a lot of action, but at the core of it, it's got this thing where, he had his wife was killed. That's a female character, she just passed. And then the dog that was given to him by his wife gets killed. It sets him in motion, this revenge that kind of happens the same way in A Bittersweet Life. He kind of goes on this risk, but that's extended through the whole film in John Wick. And I was like, okay, that's taking it a little bit too far. I don't think that pairs perfectly. Then I thought about a film like Drive with Ryan Gosling. I was like, well, he's this similar, like a really well capable man, works for kind of the criminals, and then he meets Carey Mulligan's character, and he kind of like, he's intrigued, and then there's this heist that goes wrong and it kind of puts everything upside down. There's mobsters. It fits. They're stylistically like very stylish movies. But I just thought, and the violence is there. I just thought, I don't know. It didn't quite the core of like this, like seeing, having the main character be this person that was like hoping for a better life wasn't really there. I think Ryan Gosling, maybe he kind of saw him having a relationship with Carey Mulligan as being like something he wanted, but you didn't feel the longing with Ryan Gosling as there was in A Bittersweet Life. So the film that I chose that I thought represented the core of the movie the best, I think is an all-time classic. I think people really love this film. It's a film people go back to a lot. Leon the Professional.
Oh.
And yes, Leon is not quite the same character, but I think at the core of the film, the relationship he has with Natalie Portman is very similar in a more focused. If the characters, the female that our main character in Bittersweet Life would have had more time with the female character in the story, that would have been Leon Professional, is what I'm kind of doing here. So I would watch A Bittersweet Life as the first film, and then I would say, hey, watch Leon The Professional, because in this film you have a character who's in that life. That's all he does. He's a slave to being a hitman, and he's the best at it. He's like fucking Spider-Man, popping out of nowhere, popping out of shadows. Really great opening scene where he just scares the shit out of everybody. And then you have in the apartment complex he lives in, Natalie Portman, who's giving one of the best young performances we've had, is playing this girl who's kind of in a bad situation. Her family, she don't like her family other than her young brother. She doesn't really care for her living situation, and has kind of got a little crush on Leon. Kind of pays attention to him, sees him around, and then her family is all murdered, and then Leon kind of saves her life, and then she now wants to just be like him, wants to be, a cleaner, as they call it in the film. And of course, if you know anything about the history of this film, it's directed by Luc Besson, who is a very controversial filmmaker. Even this film itself originally was a lot more controversial. People would still say that this movie's controversial, but the original script was a lot more controversial. It was actually, there was actual sexual relationship between the two characters, but through the cuts and the fact that Natalie Portman's parents were very heavily involved in keeping this film reined in, the film, I think, gives off to me more of a parental vibe to it between the two characters. Like Leon sees her as this innocence lost, and Leon himself is somebody that's very innocent at his core. Like he's this hitman, but then you see him at the beginning of the film, all he does is drink milk the whole movie. And he watches Gene Kelly movies. Like he loves Singing in the Rain. Like he's obviously this person that at his core is looking for good, but what he does is very dark. And so it gets externalized when he brings her into his life. He decides to take her in kind of reluctantly. And then through their time spent together, he gets a little bit more out there, and they bond over kind of in a similar to Hit Girl and Nick Cage's character from Kick-Ass, kind of bonding over doing this very dark thing, which is learning how to be a hitman. But I
It's
just
also sorry to interrupt,
No,
but
go
like
ahead.
you describing the plot, and for a movie I've seen several times, although it's been a while, but you describing the plot verbally like that, like for the first time ever, it made me go, it's like, oh, it's like kind of John Cassavetes' Gloria. Like I had never pieced together the same dynamic, other than instead of a sassy broad played by Jenna Rollins, it's a cool Frenchman played by Jean Reno. But yeah, I never pieced together like it's the same plot, like it's the same setup and everything. But yeah, please proceed.
No, and so Yeah, I just thought that to me, like one of the main things about Bittersweet Life was that he encounters this woman, and it gives him a glimpse into a better life. Like he's like life can be happy. Like that, there's a whole scene in the movie where he like listens to this girl as he's like kind of watching her. She's a cello. She plays the cello, and he's listening to her play the cello, and he just kind of like. You find out later it's like the only time he smiles in the movie. Is listening to her play cello. And so through this woman, he sees a better, I don't think there's really much of there might be a slight romanticness in that film, but I think more than anything, she was a representative of something better than what he was going through. He was just trying to escape his monotonous, dark, hard life that he was in. And I think that same relationship our main character has to a female in that film is similar to what we get in Leon the Professional, where, this female character that gets brought into this very hard person's life kind of changes them and shows them that there's more than what they're used to dealing with. I think it's a strong double feature. Yeah. What do you guys think? Leon, you both have seen it. What do you think of the pairing? Oh, Johnny, we lost you. You're muted.
Sorry, I muted because a siren was going by. But
I got you.
It happens all the time. Yeah, I have seen it, though not in a while. It's one of my wife's favorite movies, cool. Mostly for Gary Oldman's sake. I think that.
I know I spoke mostly on the plot, but yeah, Gary Oldman, one of the best villain performances ever.
Yeah, she loves him. So yeah, I'm surprised she hasn't trotted out lately. I feel like I have moved away from Luc Besson as a director.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, the things that he has, that he leans into now were always present in his older films, but it's like they were my least favorite elements, and like now that's all what he wants to do. But I do still really love The Professional and The Fifth Element. I have a soft spot for, yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, you're right about all that. It is that sad loner who is just like, well, this is what I'm good at, this is what I have to do. It's not what he really wants to do, but it's it's the life that he that fell into him. And yeah, you're right about Natalie Portman as well, who like when she came on the scene, I can't remember if she had done Beautiful Girls first or this or what, but it was all in the same like year where all of a sudden she was in 3 or 4 films like this.
She was in.
Yeah, and like instantly you're like, oh no, like this is a cut above your average child actor. Like she's not going anywhere for a while, and yeah, we were right.
Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah,
any thoughts on Leon?
It's been several years since I've seen Leon the Professional, but I've seen it several times. It feels like one of those movies that you discover when you're first starting out trying to discover cool movies. You find some cool person who has seen all the cool movies, and they give you recommendations of like The Fifth Element, of Leon the Professional. They tell you to watch Pulp Fiction. They tell you to watch other 90s types of movies like Reservoir Dogs. And
I would say this is one of them, like quintessential 90s movies. Yeah, it's
in that window of like cool 90s movies that all the cool people want to watch and talk about. And like you said, over the years, I think it's been tarnished a little bit because of Luc Besson. But what is interesting about it is people still want that sequel with Natalie Portman's character becoming the new Professional. I know time. It's been that movie came out
30 years old now.
30 years ago. You know what I mean?
I just aged so much in the last 5 seconds.
I think the time for that may have been about a decade ago, but who really knows? But to be honest, they're making sequels to movies that came out 50 years ago. So
Natalie Portman looks young. She's young,
right?
So.
I'm just saying in general, in terms of the way the movie world works now, they're making, like I said, they're making prequels and sequels to movies that came out 50 years ago.
Yeah, this legacy sequel business is very popular. I'm not sure if it's yielded many big success stories yet. I don't know. I'm sure there's a few that I liked.
The Jurassic Park movies hit, but I mean, like that was only 30 years ago as we're talking right now.
Yeah,
but
they made money.
Yeah, and I know they've kind of just continued. These franchises really have never died. The ones that have been successful really have never died.
Yeah,
like Mission Impossible is still going. James Bond is still going. Star Wars is still going. I mean, they're going to be doing more with the various horror films. Alien just came out with a new movie, and Alien came out in the 70s. You know what I mean? And they're going to do more with that world. Predators came out in the 80s. They're doing more Predator movies. So I mean, like, it's not out of the realm of possibility considering the world we live in. And
so Matilda the Professional.
I guess they want, or just call it Matilda. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the script existed at one point,
Probably
unless that's
did.
just internet lore. But I think that was something that Luke was trying to get off the ground at one point, and I don't know, Natalie wasn't interested, or the timing wasn't right. But yeah, it seems like a no-brainer. It also seems like the kind of thing that, like, maybe it's better in our head than it would be in reality.
Probably.
And I with all of the things around Luc Besson, I don't think Natalie Portman would go anywhere near it if he was attached to it.
Yeah,
I have a feeling.
Unless it was handed to someone else to do it.
But I would say if it was to happen, that the villain would have to be Nicolas Cage. Just so
clearly.
I'm not opposed to it. Yeah, he could out cokehead Gary Oldman in
he would have to do the scene from what's the fucking movie?
Longlegs?
No, what's the cocaine scene from the one movie he did?
Are you talking about the
Port of Call, New
Orleans? Yeah.
No. I'm thinking of the one...
Vampire's Kiss.
No, cocaine.
Nicolas Cage did cocaine in so many movies. You have to be more specific.
It's one of his more recent films. It has color in the title. Color Out of Space.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
I think that's the movie. I'm thinking.
I thought you meant Mandy.
That's not it. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna find out.
I thought you meant Mandy when he's...
That's it, Mandy.
Oh, there we go.
That's it.
Chainsaw fighting like demons.
Yeah, when he's got the piece of glass and he's... yeah. God.
Dude, he was fighting demons with chainsaws. He needed something, an extra stimulant.
You can do it all.
But yeah, I don't think they need to make that movie. I think Leon the Professional by itself is a classic. Which, if anybody knows it, initially came out, it was supposed to be called The Professional. Mm-hmm. And then they called it Leon. And then they called it Leon the Professional.
Yeah, the different cuts have different names.
Yeah, theatrical, the extended cut, which is the international, was called Leon, I think. Yeah. And then when they recut it again and put back in some of the stuff, they called it Leon the Professional. So yeah, the history of cuts. That's Ridley Scott all in.
Just thinking of him.
Just Ridley Scott. Yeah. There'll be 2 more cuts of Gladiator 2 by next year. So
boy,
could be.
Spare us.
Yeah.
Sorry, I saw Gladiator 2 last week, and I hope everyone enjoys it.
I was gonna say, I hope everybody else enjoys it.
I did read your review of it. But I'm still gonna see it just out of curiosity's sake.
You gotta see it. It's a new Ridley movie. I think I skipped his House of Gucci movie, but Denzel's having fun. That's all that matters, right? Denzel seems to be having a good time.
That's all that matters. But that is it. That is it for this Unwatched Pile Noir edition. Johnny, as always, it's a pleasure.
Likewise. I love you guys.
Love you too, buddy.
Even though you make me buy things because you tell me how cool they'll be, and I'll say,
I'm not involved anymore.
Now I have to take all the blame for all of the people in that situation because I try to make it sound so cool. Well, I got to make it sound interesting, or else people won't listen to you. Really, if you think about it. But yeah, once again, we will be having another episode of Chasing Labels this coming Monday, which is a date that I cannot remember off the top of my head. And then, of course, we'll have an Unwatched Pile next month, but we're not quite sure when yet because it is
the season.
December holiday season and such.
Yeah, so we'll see. It might be just me and Andrew if I can't get a guest because it is so close to the holidays. It might just end up being us. But we'll see. We'll see. But then at the beginning of the year, I'll be back on here with Andrew. We've already kind of started talking about a end of the year favorite physical media releases thing that we like to do. So we'll probably do that. And yeah, that's it. Of course, if you weren't here for this, it'll be on audio here soon in the next couple days. And of course, watch Andrew on Chasing Labels every other week. Johnny, where can they reach out to you or follow you, your podcast?
I am a rotating co-host of the podcast Authorized, where we read movie novelizations, and I'm not on every episode because there's just so many, and they're so time consuming. But yeah, actually, I think we're still in the middle of releasing. We did a whole season on the Planet of the Apes. And did you know that there are 28 Planet of the Apes novelizations and spin-offs? Wow. I didn't know when I said I would do that, but yeah, 5 based on the Tim Burton movie alone. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, we have some fun stuff coming up. You can follow me on Letterboxd under my name, Johnny Pomato. I was just at the New York Film Festival and I saw 30 films there, so you can read all of those reviews and see what's about to come up and what will be the big high-profile movies at the end of the year. But yeah, other than that, I'll just be here watching movies, playing catch-up.
You're living the life, man. You're living the life. All right, guys. Well, with that said, everybody have a good night. And hey, get the hell out of here, man. Dude, I say this every single time. Get the hell out of here. Put a Blu-ray in. Watch it with your eyeballs. Have a good night.